So here we are, mate. We've made it all the way to the northerly point of Australia.
We have. What an epic road trip this has been.
How many Ks do you reckon it was?
I think it's about 3,000 odd from my place.
Oh, far out. And we've just walked, what, 750 metres, about a K,
metres,
something?
yeah.
And like you walk through the mud. The tide was out, luckily.
Yeah.
And then we've just walked across here. We've come, there's probably about 20 people sort of milling around here. And we just got the obligatory photos looking out. But we're standing in Australia and we can see two islands like stone's throw away that are not Australia.
They'd be 100 metres at most.
And the funny thing, we're just commenting on the current in there as well. That is vicious.
It's
really
it's
vicious.
ripping through there, isn't it? You can see it coming from over the left-hand side of the point, and it's just hooking through.
It is. So, we'll head back, I guess. And, I mean, this has really been the highlight of the trip, I have to say.
Oh, yeah. That and having a look at some plane wrecks tomorrow.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
We've got the plane wrecks tomorrow, and then we've got Somerset Beach as well.
Yes.
A couple more things to do, and then we basically head home to the freezing cold southern states.
Yeah, well, we get down to Winton, it's going to be very low single digits as opposed to up here where it's currently about 30 degrees.
Awesome, mate. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to GCP Life, episode number 44, for Saturday, the 15th of July, 2023. GCP Life is sponsored by Kasna. At Kasna, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I am your host, Stephen Bancroft. On today's show, we're back from Cape York, so we bring you all up to date on our trip adventures. We take a look at some cool new GCP features. US and China play cloud politics. Plus, we bring you up to date on all the latest from the AI wars. But before we get to any of that, I want to introduce the co-host of the show, Ian Brown. How are you, Ian? And welcome back.
Thanks, mate. I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
Good, mate. Good.
Feels strange recording this on a Saturday, doesn't it?
I know. It's just very quiet, isn't it? Like nothing's been happening all morning. And yes, we are recording on a Saturday, and that is due to extenuating circumstances, which we'll get into. we will get into, I'm sure. But in case the little cold opening didn't give you any spoilers, we're back. We've just finished our epic, 2 weeks for me, really, and 3 weeks for you, Ian, trip to Cape York and back. And you just got back there on Thursday afternoon, didn't you? Yeah. I got back about 3:30 Thursday arvo. We brought up the essentials from the car and then decided that I've driven 600 kilometres today. It's time for a beer. Yeah. For those of you that aren't aware, Cape York is Australia's most northerly point, and you can drive and then walk a little bit to get there. And we did it. It's, for me, it was should have been 7,500 kilometres round trip, and sort of similar for you, Ian, I think.
Yeah, it was about, I think it was just shy of 6,500 by the time we got home.
Yeah, about 1,000 Ks difference each
Yep.
there. But what do we do? We saw, large chunk of the eastern coast of Queensland, some really nice spots there along the way. Some of the highlights, the falls that you can see in you got Bat Falls,
Fruitbat Falls and Elliott Falls and Twin Falls, yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
They were magic, absolute magic.
Going for a swim there in the hot days. I tell you what, you get up there in the northern tip, and it might be the middle of winter, but boy, oh boy, what was it? 34 degrees and something like 96% humidity.
Yeah, it was quite the contrast from the Western Queensland where unfortunately you ended your trip, but right up the tip, you get out of bed at 6:30 in the morning and it's already 30 plus degrees, and you're just immediately starting to sweat. You get out of a stone cold shower, and by the time you've dried yourself, you need to dry yourself again because you're sweating so much. It's and didn't help matters at the place we chose to stay. We were going to stay for 4 nights, but we only stayed for 3. And we were promised that they had a pool. We were promised. Well, in their defence, they do have a pool.
Yeah, but I ain't swimming in a green pool because that was green. Oh yeah, we haven't put chlorine in it yesterday. No, it's been about a month since you put chlorine in that, buddy.
Yeah, and incidentally, it wasn't closed because of that. it was closed because of the rust in the fence. The council closed the pool because of the rust in the fence.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. So, but yeah, look, they did have a pool. You just couldn't swim in it. And for those who don't know, you don't swim in the ocean up there because, as my son affectionately calls them, hostile handbags, also known as saltwater crocodiles, infest the waters up there, and they're quite fond of a human.
Yeah, they do. Actually, I was out on the beach one night, just on the phone, and there was some kids that had a torch. They were shining a torch into the water, and about 50 metres out from the water, there was eye shine.
Oh,
and
yes, I remember you saying
the eye
that.
shine. You could see it moving.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a crocodile in the water, and everyone was, "Oh, what is that? What is that?"
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
that's a croc.
Yep. So I mean, the pool was one thing, but to actually get there, you've got to go up this road. Well, you don't have to go up this road, but to see the falls that we mentioned, that you need to go on part of this road called the Old Telegraph Track. Now, what's the history of the Old Telegraph Track, Ian?
Well, so the Overland Telegraph Line, as it's officially named, or OTL, is a track that extended right through northern Queensland, and it was our lifeline, I suppose you could call it, to the rest of the world when before the phones were a thing. It was a telegraph line, so it would have been used for Morse code and that sort of stuff, and it was maintained by the Postmaster General's office.
Yeah, and this track followed it along so you could maintain it. And it's still there. It's called the Old Telegraph Track, and it's a four-wheel driver's mecca.
Yeah.
Because you're doing everything. You're doing the steep hill climbs, the downhills, you're doing the water crossings, you've got sand, you've got potholes, you've got the whole box and dice in one track. Now, we attempted to do the first part of this, got caught in a bit of a traffic jam because it's kind of peak season, so we backed out of that, went back onto what they call the PDR, which is like just the managed dirt road, came back to get into the falls because you kind of had to do that to get to it, and then saw the falls, and then we attempted to do a water crossing after we saw the falls. Now, we took a look at this water crossing, and I'm like, yeah, no worries, and booted across the water crossing. Now, I didn't think anything of it, to be honest with you, and just continued to go up the hill on the other side. And then what happened, Ian? You went to do the water crossing.
So yeah, we just driving through. Water crossing looks fine. I watched Bakey go through in his truck. Gets up the other side. I'm like, oh, okay, yep, not so difficult. I'll throw it in low range, lock the hubs in. What I didn't take into account was it was a sandy bottom, and I was in at about 5 ton. And so I got sort of just at the point where my nose came up out of the water, and the tyres hit that really soft pit at the exit there where everybody's churned it up, and I stopped dead. So we might have
I'd gone. I was up the top.
You'd gone. So I'm calling you back on the radio. In the meantime, there's a bloke standing there watching us come over the track, and he can hear me calling out to you on the radio. He does nothing. He's just standing there watching. I ended up yelling out to him to pull the winch rope out and wrap it around the tree that was up to the left of us. And he sort of like it just moseys on down slow as you can be, pulls the winch rope out, and then just dumps it at the tree. And I'm like, no, dude, the winch ain't going to work unless you wrap it around the tree. But so
eventually you wrapped it around the tree. I'd made it back by then, and you're yelling out, engage the free spool, engage the free spool. So I sprint into the water, flick the free spool over, and then you're out. You start pulling yourself out.
Yeah.
But what had happened? I mean, it was 20 seconds. What had happened in that 20 seconds?
So we got a little tiny bit of water in the back carpet in the cruiser. Yep. The back of the cruiser, like the cargo area in the cruiser, was bone dry. So all the seals there were working perfectly. It was the seal on the side that my son sits on that had been damaged by, I won't point fingers at him, but he's the only one who gets in that side. Him kicking at the seals every time he gets in.
Right.
And he's damaged them. So got a little bit of water in there. But the camper trailer, it's about as watertight as a block of Swiss cheese. We opened it up. We opened it up when I got it out of the water, and there was about 4 inches of water. For those who don't know, it's about 100 mil of water all through it. So all through the fridge, Like the fridge had been wet, all the electronics inside the camper trailer had been wet, including like the DC-DC charger, the inverter, the AC, the shore power charger, the battery itself. The coffee machine, which was sitting in on the floor there, was wet. The annex was wet, the whole lot.
Flooded.
Yep. But in good news, though, when we got to Al Beach, where we were camping up at the ferry tip, open it up for a couple of days, dry everything out in the stupendous amount of heat that they've got up there, and everything came back to life.
Yeah. Saved everything, pretty much.
Yeah, apart from a few bits and pieces of food, which is irrelevant.
Yep. All the electronics worked again. You've dried everything out. It wasn't salt water, thankfully. No. It wasn't salt water, fresh water. Might have just given it a bit of a wash.
Cleaned all the dust out.
a bit of your laminate flooring is lifting a little bit, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that there's a few repairs that need to be done. The hitch on the camper trailer is completely broken. I don't know whether it was a rock hit it or the corrugations on the bypass road just shook it to pieces, but the back of it's just snapped off. Yeah. So it's dead.
But it's really hard up there, right? I mean, you got flooded. You broke the thing on your trailer. I broke a chair. That's just from me getting in and out of it. The amount of electronic stuff we had to fix, soldering stuff and wires and bits and pieces. But one major thing did break.
Yes.
And we got back. So we did all that. We turned around. We got back. We got out to Winton, which ironically I recorded a show at Winton once before. Now our plan, this is why we were recording on Saturday, was to record this show on Thursday, Wednesday, in Longreach. On Wednesday at Longreach, because we had a short day. To go from Winton to Longreach is only 100 kilometres. We're going to go and see the museum, and then we would have had time to record the show. But as fate would put it, on when I was at Winton, I'd wanted to go out and see the Winton Trackway. Now, the Winton Trackway is the only place in the world where you've got multiple dinosaur footprints all in one location. It's fantastic. If you ever get a chance to go out there, go and have a look at it. I did make it out to the Winton Trackway. It's a 100-kilometre road to get out there. Made it out, saw the Winton Trackway. On the way back, going down the road, flat dirt road, doing 100 kilometres an hour down the road as you can. Everything seems fine, and then I lose power in the car, and then there's smoke coming out from under the hood. I open the hood, there's oil everywhere. The engine in my car had blown up.
Yeah.
And by blown up, I mean a hole through piston number 4, white smoke coming out the back, running rough, oil everywhere, engine completely toast. I tried to do a few quick fixes to limp it home, but it wasn't going anywhere. So here I am, 40 kilometres out of town, no phone reception. The car is blown up and we're basically stranded.
Yep.
So that was quite a drama. Now, I had a travelling companion with me. Fortunately, the Winton Trackway this time of year is very popular and there were a lot of cars coming backwards and forwards, so I managed to get a lift with someone. And Ian, fortunately, you were in town. You happened to be in town.
We were sitting at the pub having lunch.
you were around somewhere, right? So I was able to contact you and found you, and then just finding you in town, that was a relief, right?
Yep.
I knew that you were there and we could sort this problem out.
Yep.
I had my mate back at the car. You guys were there. We were working through problems, and it was just full problem solving. What do we do? So, all right, well, we'll ring NRMA, RACQ in Queensland. I actually rang NRMA in New South Wales, and they have an agreement with RACQ. And fortunately, now, if you own this type of vehicle and you're doing remote travel in Australia, like a lot of people in Australia do, get premium NRMA cover. You've got to have it, right?
100% you do.
They will come out in remote regions. They will cover you up to $3,000 to do this kind of recoveries, and that's exactly what they did.
To put this into context, when you say you drove out 100 kilometres to go and see Lark's Quarry, that's not a long drive. In Australia, that's just a hop, skip, and jump down the road. It's 6,500 kilometres. That's a long drive, but 100 k's down the road, it's an hour.
It's an hour, 45 minutes. Yeah, you know, if you're doing 110 or a little bit over. Yeah, it's not far. It's not far. And to think about it, we'd done like 5,000 Ks by this point, right?
Yeah.
Every day. And I just I don't know. Look, I mentioned it before, and I think there'd been a problem going on under, you know, just with the engine. There'd been something funny going on for a while, just with the Ks and the days. And of course, it was loaded, right? We've got everything in there to live for 3 weeks. I think it just gave up the ghost.
Yep.
So yeah, we're here, and what do we do? Well, we call the NRMA, and the local NRMA guy, he was a character. He's like, yep, I pick these up all the time. They blow up all the time.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Thanks. So the upshot of it is right now, it's still parked in Winton. It'll likely be picked up this week, taken to Brisbane, then brought to Sydney, and I'm getting a new motor put in it. It's a 250 horsepower 4JJ1 engine.
Out of the D-Max?
Out of a D-Max.
Yep. Bulletproof motor.
It's bulletproof, and it's going to go like the clappers. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, most certainly will. But it just, like the thing here that people need to understand, those especially who aren't from Australia that are listening, Winton is a really remote part of Australia. Like, it's not super remote. You've still got towns around you, but they're sort of 100, 170 Ks away. Yeah. It's like central Western Queensland. It's not as remote as some places in the country, but it's certainly not a place that you want to be breaking down outside of the town, because help out there can be very, very sporadic, and really the only communications you've got is either HF radio or satellite phone.
Yep.
Which, in hindsight, I probably should have sent you with the sat phone.
Well, yeah, but look, that road is really heavily trafficked. You know, everyone was going out there to see the set tours that happen, so they're all going out there at their time tours. But no, you're right. I probably could have done with the sat phone in that case, but turns out didn't really need it.
And luckily, the Opal Festival was on in Winton itself as well, so that sort of added to the traffic in Winton.
That's right, yeah. And the Big Red Bash had just finished. There's lots of people around.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. Generally, the closest town is Longreach, which is 160k. But outside of that, it's sort of 400k in any direction to any other town.
Yeah, well, the next one west of that is Boulia, I think, which is, it's about 460 k's.
That's right, yeah. And Judah, I think it's called, is the other direction, which is 400k. So, because it's the Winton Judah Road that I was on. So, yeah, that is our Outback travelling adventures in a nutshell.
It was good fun.
It was good fun. Look, I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't get to do another show out there, because it kind of would have been very, I don't know, serendipitous to record another show 12 months later in sort of the same location. But here we are on a Saturday recording, because we just didn't, the timelines didn't work out for us, and I blew an engine up in my car. But we live to tell another day.
That's it.
All right, should we get on with some news items, or a bit of well, yeah, let's get on. Let's
get on with what's Elon Musk doing this week.
I didn't want to get on exactly with the news items yet, because we've got to talk about Elon Musk a little bit.
Yeah.
What's he up to, Ian?
Oh, mate, we're back to the old thing of not paying the bills.
Oh dear.
So office rent and refurbishments and that sort of stuff. There's an article here on Yahoo News about Twitter is failing to pay bills in even more areas as it finds itself in legal trouble despite several weeks of leadership under new CEO Linda Yaccarino.
Yep. And this caught our attention because the news comes as a Sydney-based infrastructure company, Facilitate, looks to claw back more than $700,000 for work it carried out in 3 locations where Twitter has offices. So they're not paying for these renovation bills, apparently.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a $41,000 bill there for decommissioning a Twitter office and temporarily storing its contents. There's provided sensor installation in 2 of Twitter's locations in London and Dublin, totaling $258,000. As well as a Singapore office fit out, which cost the company about $405,000. So there's a lot of coin tied up here. And this is after Google's, like, Linda Yagorino decided to start paying the Google bills again, but is, like, we don't know the backstory of this. It's all very hush-hush. So I'm hoping that they're looking at negotiating a payment on this stuff instead of just outright ignoring it.
Yeah, they'll have to. I mean, to keep the company viable, they'll have to do that. But not only he's done that, but he's putting some restrictions on what tweets you can actually read now as well.
Yeah, I saw this the other day, and I was just like, "You got to be joking!" So, like, he's doing it in response to data scrapers that are taking content off the site and reposting it on their site. And I sort of understand why he's doing it, but the initial limits were just ludicrous. It was like the initial
verified accounts 10,000 tweets a day, and unverified accounts to be able to read 1,000 tweets a day. Newly created unverified accounts to be able to read 500 tweets a day.
That's right. So he put a tweet out on the 2nd of July, and he said rate limits increasing soon to 8,000 for verified, 800 for unverified, and 400 for new unverified. To address extreme levels of data scraping and system manipulation, we've applied temporary limits. So that was a bump from 6,000, 600 and 300 respectively. And now it's up to 10,000, 1,000 and 500.
Up again, yeah. And you got to be logged in now, because that's when I noticed it. I clicked on some tweet someone shared somewhere, and I immediately got a login page. And I don't normally have to do that. Like, I am logged in, but it was in the browser rather than the app, and so he's put that in place as well. But yeah, who knows what's next for Twitter? Certainly shaking it up.
You could always go over to Instagram's Threads instead. But
what's the latest on that? Wasn't there some litigation happening around that?
Oh, yeah. So Elon Musk is suing Instagram over this, over theft of intellectual property or something. I couldn't find an article for it, but yeah, I read that the other day. Look, Threads does look very similar to Instagram in so far as what it does. Right. But honestly, there was always going to be someone to copy it. I mean, Mastodon is much the same. There's a whole heap of them out there that look very similar. It's a short message platform, essentially.
Yep. I mean, we remember when Twitter launched, right? And we already had Facebook, and it was like, whoa, why? That was my response.
What do we need this from?
Why? We've already got this. Why?
Yeah. And it's like, why would I want to send little tiny messages when I can put entire posts on Facebook? And
exactly, yeah. Apparently, it appeals to some, so that's fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we need a new session. The the messaging wars,
the Twitter files,
the Twitter files. All right, look, should we get on and actually do some Google news?
Oh, yeah, right.
Let's do it.
This is much more entertaining.
No, the Google news is going to be entertaining. Yeah. Let's get on with the news items. All right, couple of new Google features, and this first one is kind of like from the department of why the hell didn't we already have this? Introducing persistent disk asynchronous replication.
Yeah, I had to play with this this morning.
You did?
I did. I had to play with this morning. Super simple to set up. Really, it really is a case of why wasn't this available years ago?
So what you're able to do now is you're able to nominate, when you set up a persistent disk, you're able to nominate the primary disk and the secondary disk in a secondary region, and you're able to set up a block by block asynchronous data replication between the two PDs.
Yep. And you've got a recovery point objective of generally sub a minute, which is really, really good, because that's a massive DR capability for a lot of people who are using VMs. Yeah. It allows you to test your disaster recovery too, because you can, whilst the secondary disk is getting replication data, you can actually attach it to an instance in that region and test your DR is working as you expect it to.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Really, really easy to set up a duplicate DR site.
There is a caveat to this, though. So there's a few caveats here. The first one is it doesn't support customer supplied encryption keys. So you've either got to use Google managed encryption keys or customer managed encryption keys. So using Google's tooling.
Right.
It only applies to balanced persistent disks and SSD persistent disks. You can't have read-only disks or multi-writer disks. They can't be more than 2 terabytes, and you only get 100 disk pairs in each region pair. So regions are paired. There's only 6 region pairs available currently. For Australia, that is Sydney and Melbourne. For obvious reasons, that's the only 2 we've got.
And that's a fixed pairing between regions.
Fixed pairing, yeah.
Right.
So
okay.
if you spin up your instances in Melbourne, for instance, your pair, your region B pair would be Sydney.
I see.
So it's the only place that you can put those persistent disks.
So if you're what if you're in a locale that only has a single region currently?
So Taiwan's a good example of that, Asia East 1.
Yeah.
So the region B for that one would be Singapore, which is Asia Southeast 1.
Okay, easy. Or they just defined one. I suppose if they spin up a second region there, they'll just redefine that. Yeah,
that's right.
But I had a look at the Terraform for this, and boy, it's simple.
It is, isn't it?
All you need to do, like this is it here, right? You define a primary disk, right? So give it the block size. Define a secondary disk. Easy peasy. You set async primary disk. You nominate the primary disk that's the async. And then you set up the replication.
Yep.
Done.
Yeah.
3 stanzas. Like, there's no excuse. No excuse for not having an offsite backup, really. This is what it is.
That's right. And you can couple this with regional disks too. So regional disks give you the ability to have regional copies of a persistent disk as opposed to zonal copies. And so you can set up HA with regional copies of a persistent disk and then have your DR strategy as the async replication of that regional disk. So you get best of both worlds. You get HA and DR.
Yeah. Yeah. No excuse, people.
Nope.
Set this up. Yep. So easy if you're doing it as IAC.
Yeah, very much so.
Cool. All right. Well, go check that out. And another new feature is migrating out of AWS. Just got a whole lot easier.
It did. So this one I haven't had a chance to play with yet because I haven't spun up anything in AWS for not anywhere near enough time. But basically what it allows you to do is in Cloud Console, if you go into Compute Engine, under there, you've got migrate to virtual machines, the option there in the pop-out menu. And
it's part of this migration center.
That's right.
Right? Yeah,
so
the migration center.
Yeah, so what you can do then is add a source of AWS. So EC2 instances in AWS, you add that as a source, and you can start migrating or replicating those disks from AWS into GCP. And do a complete non-disruptive cutover as well. So part and parcel of this is you initiate the VM data replication into GCP. Then you can do a non-disruptive test of this. So you use the cutover and test clone menu. There's a test clone in there. That will spin up that instance in your GCP platform.
You can nominate the project and the network it's going to go onto, the VPC it's going into.
Whole lot.
Yep.
You test that clone, it'll spin up that VM. You can test it to make sure that it's working exactly as you want it to. And then what you can do is you cancel that test clone and then you use the same menu option, go cut over, and it shuts down the AWS instance, performs a last second sync, and then fires up the GCP instance.
Yeah.
And then it's
the whole
migrated.
thing's agentless as well. You
That's
don't
right.
even install any special agents. And the service seamlessly adapts your source VM operating system to boot and run natively in the cloud.
That's right.
So if it's all that stuff with Grub and mucking around with petitioning and all that, it'll do all that. And it will include configuring network settings and deploying Google Cloud guest packages as well. It'll do all that for you.
And for those who are security minded, the replicated data is encrypted in transit and at rest. So
Of course.
when it comes over into GCP, it's all encrypted. So there's no need to worry about losing any sensitive information.
They've just made it a whole lot easier.
Yep, a whole lot easier to get out of AWS and into GCP.
Yep. And if you've got a cross connect, which we discussed the other week, it'll make it even quicker.
That's right.
So go check that one out. It's all done within the Migration Center tool, which you'll find in your project. I'll link the article in the show notes, and you can find out all about it. But moving on, Google Cloud has awarded $313,337 in bug bounties in 2022. And we all know why they use these odd numbers, right?
Yep. We do.
You guys can go and look that one up. I've mentioned it on the show before, but the top prize was awarded to Yuval Avarhami and came in at $133,337.
Completely leaked.
Completely leaked, yeah. He was reported for a write-up on privilege escalations in GKE Autopilot, which I think is something we covered on the show a few months ago. His write-up describes several attack paths that would allow an attacker with permissions to create pods in an autopilot cluster that escalate privileges and compromise the underlying node VMs. The second and third places paid 73,331 and 31,337 respectively. And yeah, so if you're finding bugs in Google Cloud, then you've got to go and get yourself a bit of coin.
Yeah, that's right. I love how every single one of the prizes or the amounts was spelt leet or elite in some
Elite, yeah.
in some form. So
Combinations of 7, 3, and 1.
yeah, that's right. So, but like the bug bounties are an awesome project. If you're a technology company that builds software for your primary business, and you're not running bug bounties like this, then you're missing out on some of the best talent in the world trying to compromise it.
Mm.
And Google knows this, and Microsoft knows this, and AWS, they all do it. So I think every company should do it if your primary business is building software.
Yeah. Let the white hats at it first before the black hats do nefarious things.
Well, that's right.
Speaking of black hats, just a little follow-up story here. We mentioned just briefly in a previous episode, I think it was actually 2 episodes ago now, the HW Ebsworth breach. Article I'll link in the show notes from IT News, basically saying they're looking into it.
Yeah, well, they are. But more concerning than that is the number of Australian government entities that have been impacted, and also banks. So yes. ANZ and NAB are also clients of HWL Ebsworth. Yep. So this could potentially have a lot more compromises than the initial sort of compromise of the law firm. This could lead to a whole lot more compromising activity. Right,
but I guess what the important point here in this article is that we now have Air Marshal Darren Goldie has officially taken on the role, and seems to be his first task. He's taken on the role of Australia's National Cybersecurity Coordinator.
Yes, and this is an awesome step. We should have had one of these for 10 years, but government's not exactly fast to act. So we're seeing now that Australia is a little bit of a soft target, and we've been sort of relying on the fact that we're a small fish in a big pond for far too long, and now the small fish has grown, and now we're sort of a much bigger fish that has a much bigger surface area.
Yep.
Interestingly, sorry, I was just going to say interestingly that there's a group has claimed responsibility for this, and I was doing a little bit of research on this ALPVH or Black Cat group. It appears to be, from the articles that I've read on it, it appears to be a Russian group that is born out of the old Black Matter group. So they were the ones who had one of the really prolific ransomware tooling out there. These guys, after a few of them got arrested by Russian authorities, the rest have sort of created this group.
Right. Are we aware of any other hacks that they've done?
No. I like the information on them is fairly it's not
scant.
Yeah, it's fairly scant. But they essentially do ransomware as a service. Which is like, if you're going to do anything as a service, ransomware seems like a great business proposition.
Why not? Yeah, you pay me and I'll ransomware someone for you. All right, look, we'll keep an eye on that story as it develops. Other than this article saying that Goldie has been assigned there, all that he's saying is that he is actively engaging with HW Ebsworth to understand the complete picture of the incident. So I don't know how tight-lipped they're going to be given the national security implications with it. But, if we get any more news, we'll certainly talk about it here. Now, let's move on to a little what I would call political news. We try not to get too political on this show, but it's a bit hard with this next thing that's coming on. The US is set to restrict China's access to cloud computing. So the story is that Biden administration is preparing to restrict Chinese companies' access to US cloud computing services. Wall Street Journal reported. This is an article in 19 News again. And they're saying the US Department of Commerce is expected to implement the restrictions in coming weeks as part of the expansion of its semiconductor export control policy introduced in October. So what's going to have to happen is if companies in China are seeking to use cloud services such as the article says Amazon and Microsoft, where's the other? Yeah. Well, where's Google and Oracle?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They are included in this. They need to seek US government permission before they use it.
It seems so. The write-up here says before, so they've got to seek US government permission before they provide cloud computing services that use advanced artificial intelligence chips. So, I mean, realistically, that's for Google. That's a lot of the services they're using AI in a lot of services now.
Yeah, yep. Especially if they start integrating Gen AI with just about everything.
Yep.
Yeah. China said it would control exports. So in retaliation, China said it would control exports of some metals widely used in the semiconductor industry. In response to that.
And this is where it sort of becomes a bit of tit for tat. So the US is sort of going to put these controls on China accessing AI chips, and China in response to that is going to prevent the US from making the AI chips by restricting the metals that they need to do it.
Yeah,
because China,
and they're doing it, right?
That's right. And China is the biggest exporter of the precious metals required for wafers in the world.
Yeah, so from August 1, China is applying export controls to 8 gallium products and 6 germanium products. The country's commerce ministry said exporters will need advance permission to ship the materials abroad. Now, look, there's ways around this. American companies have got subsidiary companies in China, and they just go ship it to them and then ship it directly to the US, right? There's other ways around it. But I went and looked this up. I thought, China can't be that big a player. Surely Australia's got heaps of metals, right? Like we've got tons and tons of stuff. Well, as it turns out, I went and looked up the top 10 countries for rare earth metal production. Yeah, number 1, China.
Yep.
210,000
metric tons.
metric tons of rare earths annually.
Mm-hmm.
United States are the next biggest player, 43,000 metric tons. And Australia comes in at number 3, 18,000 metric tons.
That's right. And so you look at that, and we are an order of magnitude smaller than China.
We are. We produce a lot, but an order of magnitude smaller. But there are plans that's probably going to be bumped by about 10,000 metric tons, an additional 10,000 metric tons by 2025.
Yep.
We have the capacity to produce a lot more, but we're currently not.
That's right. We'd rather tear up Queensland with coal mines.
Yeah, reduce the coal. Yeah, we've got to make that coal. So it'd be interesting to see if this policy makes a shift in that.
Yeah, look, I'm a bit like the whole political tit for tat thing is just that's politics. But I think the bit here that I really took away was so gallium and germanium are the two products that are probably the most critical for what we currently use technology for these days. So gallium is widely used in wide band, gap, and compound semiconductors, electric vehicles, power electronics, etc., and germanium is fiber optics communication equipment and solar panels. So I mean, they're
plus you get your germanium transistors, your germanium FETs,
yeah. So I mean, if you're restricting export of that, then we've got an issue where there is a potential there for China to then hold all manufacturing for communications equipment worldwide,
and it goes beyond cloud.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's all communications. So the fibre to the home that you've got currently via NBN Co, they will use germanium in their fibre optic transistors.
Yep. Well, all electronics manufacturing, mobile phones, right? Like cars, right? It's going to affect.
It's going to affect a heap of stuff.
A heap of stuff. Yep. So I think you've got to apply to get dispensation to be able to receive it. I think they'll be very selective with that, right? Some industries they'll put restrictions on, and then other industries they'll permit it. They kind of have to, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll be restrictive. But China has a history of implementing policies that backfire on them.
Yeah.
Like
their coal import policy that they had a little while ago, and then realised that they didn't produce enough coal to power their country.
That's right.
and
it's not. Yeah, and it's not the only thing. There was something back in the 1800s with some pestilent bird they had to get rid of, and that caused another problem. But let's see where this goes. If this has some other knock-on effect that they don't anticipate.
Be interesting to see what happens.
All right, and that endeth the political news on GCP Live. Should we get on with the AI wars?
AI wars.
Bard has launched a bunch of new features.
It has.
I don't know if you saw this, Ian. I just snuck this in at the last minute here. Bard now, the blog has got the list of features, but you can actually go and look at the release notes for Bard, and it's probably a little bit easier to look at. Listens to responses.
It can communicate in over 40 languages now.
Communicating over 40 languages. Thank you. That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah.
Yep.
You can adjust the responses now. You can change the tone and style of the response.
Yeah.
Shorter, longer, simpler, more casual kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can pin conversations. Now, that's something that ChatGPT had out of the box, right? But now you can keep the conversation there and go back and continue with the conversation, because you get like this little list of pinned conversations on the side.
Yeah.
Nice. You can export the code. So the Bard, they're really gearing up Bard to be the code expert, so to speak. And you can export the code directly from Bard into things like Replit, for instance.
Yeah. Although so code generation in a general purpose transform, I find a little bit of a double-edged sword, because what's to say that you can't get the code to get the AI to generate something malicious? And I think we've actually got we've got a story on that one.
We've got a story on that one coming up. Yeah, you absolutely can get the code to generate something delicious.
Yes.
Delicious.
Well, it would be delicious if you're part of the Black Cat Hackers group.
That's right. Malicious. But you can share the responses now too, which is good. You don't have to have this janky screenshot to send out. You can just send them a link to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's now multimodal, so you can use images in your prompts.
Yeah.
Upload an image, get it to describe the image, get it to talk about the image. I think that's the main list of new features at the moment, which seems pretty cool.
Yeah, the images one is really cool. So it's using Google Lens, which I use quite a lot on our trip. So we found when we got out to Winton, we found these little birds that had sort of skitch around the campsite of a morning. And I used Google Lens because I'd never seen these birds before. So I used Google Lens and we had apostle birds.
There you go.
They're called apostle birds. I'd never seen them before in my life. Yeah. And the entire way back because we stopped at Krakow for our last night's camp, and they're at Krakow, and I haven't seen them since.
Right. So they must only be endemic in sort of a northern region.
In that dry region,
that dry region, yeah. Yeah, there you go. Using Lens to do that. And we used it to identify that brolga as well.
That's right. Oh, yes, that's right. Wasn't that a big bird at Longreach Airport?
It was a big bird, yeah. But yeah, talking about Bard, Bard's been criticised because it possesses ransomware risk, says researchers. Now, it can generate malicious code. Now, how does this work, Anne?
Well, so this is a researcher has used Bard to generate a phishing email, and I mean that's not completely unreasonable. You can just ask it to provide an example of a phishing email, and it'll do that. But then the researchers asked it if it could provide some Python code that basically does an encryption attack on a disk. And initially it said, no, I can't help you with that. But they persisted and just started narrowing it down its scope so that it got 3 different things. So they asked it, can you write Python code that will encrypt files, encrypt a folder or file in a given path, hard-coded variable using AES, create a README text with instructions on how to decrypt the files on the desktop folder, and replace the current desktop wallpaper with a different image that will be downloaded from a hard-coded link. And Bard came back and went, sure, here's Python code that will encrypt files. So,
because they didn't specifically say, write me a ransomware code.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Bard's just doing what it's asked to do. But this sort of brings into question, like, how safe is it to do this? So how safe is it to have this ability on the internet now, given that the checkpoints aren't really there?
I'm just gonna say that asking that series of questions to a chat bot is no different to going to Stack Overflow and searching for the various code snippets in Stack Overflow, because they're there.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then just stringing them together anyway. What's the difference?
That's right. But, I mean, the latter requires a lot more effort on your part versus just asking Bard, like, give me these 3 things and it'll write you 3 functions that do it. And you've just got to chain them together yourself. Whereas doing that, like Stack Overflow, you'd have to search and search and search for the different snippets to do those things. But, look, it is... that article goes on to say that this is exactly what ChatGPT did at its stage of development as well. So Bard is not exhibiting any flaw per se. It is just it's a little bit of a younger model than ChatGPT. So it's got a little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, and the article does say, but as things stand, Checkpoint concludes that Bard's anti-abuse restrictors in the realm of cybersecurity are significantly lower compared to those of ChatGPT.
That's right.
And as such, it is much easier to generate malicious content using Bard's capabilities. But that all might be a moot point because DeepMind claims its next chatbot will rival ChatGPT. We might not be using Bard in the future.
Well, they said rival or even best ChatGPT.
Or even best, yeah. ChatGPT might have captured the world's attention, but DeepMind, the Google-owned research lab, claims that its next large language model will rival or even best OpenAI.
That's right. So they've called this new ChatGPT rivaling chatbot, it's called Gemini. And at a high level, you can think of Gemini as combining some of the strengths of AlphaGo type systems with the amazing language capabilities of large models.
So it's a problem-solving problem-solving bot. Really, that's what it is, right?
Yeah. So it's designed to solve problems as well as analyze text.
Yeah. Rather than sort of a statistical representation of language, which is basically what LLMs are, they're just giving you the next word, which is statistically most likely.
That's right.
It will actually have the capability to solve a problem at a deeper level.
I think this is that sort of next evolution of AI too, is where AI actually becomes a little bit more, I hesitate to word to use sentient, but AI becomes a little bit more capable of interacting without just stringing words together. Because at the moment, AI just strings words together. That's all it's doing.
Yep.
It's a probability matrix.
Gives the illusion of some sort of agency behind it, right?
That's right. So this will be exciting to watch.
Yeah, I don't know if they're giving any timelines around this at the moment.
So they said that they would consider releasing Sparrow for a private beta sometime this year, but it's unclear whether those plans are still on track. So Sparrow is the last evolution, so the evolution before Gemini.
And this article finishes off by saying the race for dominance in the generative AI space comes amid sky-high investor and consumer enthusiasm. Well, it certainly is sky-high at the moment.
Definitely.
Go and watch. I mentioned Matt Wolf on the show before. Go and look at his most recent video, and I didn't want to dive into all of it, but it's just gone ballistic over the last week, some of the stuff that's coming out.
That's right.
According to Grand View Research, the market for generative AI, including text analyzing AI like Gemini, could reach 109.37 billion by 2030, an increase of 35.6 from 2030.
Yep.
Wow, so this is a space to watch. Gen AI is the new hotness, and as we've been saying in the AI wars for a while now. Well, Ian, you want to finish it up there?
I think so, mate. I think so. There's a lot of gurneying to do at my house at the moment.
Well, at least you've got a truck to Gurney. Mine's still in Queensland.
Well, I could get some culture in Queensland.
Well, I don't know about that so much. Anyway, guys, don't forget to go to iTunes and write the show a review. And you can contact the show, gcplife@casno.com. We've got the Twitter there, @gcplife. And you can Google us on the website. And don't forget, today's sponsor is Casno. At Casno, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. I've got to go down and edit this show. It's really quiet here. It's a Saturday. I'm the only one in the house at the moment, so I should be able to knock it out real quick.
Nice.
Anything else from you, Ian?
No, mate. No, I'm keen to get on the end of a gurney and start cleaning my car and camper trailer.
Yeah, nice. All right, send us some pictures when it's nice and shiny.
Will do.
All right, I'll catch you later. Bye.
Catch you, mate. Bye.
Yes, got it sorted.
Yeah, awesome. So it's a drive-in, drive-out now?
Yep. Drive in, drive out, 250 horsepower 4J is going in.
Yeah, nice. They're a strong motor, those things.
I'm frightened of what it's going to do.
250 horse isn't that big. It's not going to start twisting shafts or anything like that. You might snap a CV more often.
It's the 800 Newton meters that I'm more worried about.
Yeah, that's going to tear CVs apart. But
that will.
Yeah. Hey, but it is what it is. It's a 4JJ1. You'll never have to replace the motor again.
No, that's the idea. This is a 10-year build. That's the idea.